And record. Welcome, everyone. This is going to be short. We're going to have to throw you guys out in a few because we're going to go into closed, but we will open up after that for the committee of the whole, and then we'll have the monthly. Wow.
That's coming out of the speaker, Brian.
I muted it.
Okay.
Thanks. I don't want to hear me. All right. Oh, shush.
Once is enough.
Okay. I'm going to ask everyone to please stand for the pledge. Get rid of this nonsense here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call. Trustee Campion.
Present.
Trustee Hopkins.
Here.
Trustee Faber.
Here.
Trustee Kulat. Sorry. Trustee Kamek and Trustee Gant.
Here.
All present. Open meeting compliance.
Yes, it was posted at 10 a.m. on Friday, the 18th.
Perfect. And I'm assuming no change in the agenda sequence. Correct. All right. I need a motion to move into closed session in accordance with the provisions of Wisconsin State Statutes 19.85 parentheses 1 parentheses C for purposes of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which a governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. This closed session is relative to the contracted sheriff department personnel.
So moved. Second.
Is that Bill first? So trustee Hopkins and Kulat, correct?
Yep.
All right, Dan? Bill?
Yes.
Mike? Dennis?
Yes.
Ted?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
We are now in closed session.
Dave, I've got one.
We're on number 3. Good night, fellas. Thank you. Good night. Consideration and possible action on our announcement relative to the closed session. There was nothing to report. We're moving right into the committee of the whole. Number 1 is discuss the Kenosha County Sheriff monthly report.
Is the reporter on now?
Yeah, it's still on. Yep.
Delay that one for
Yep.
a moment.
Yeah, Captain Gonzalez just stepped out. He'll be right back in.
Yeah.
That's cool.
No.
Are you gonna do citizen?
Yes.
That would have been too Christmas.
We don't, oh, they're all after the committee.
Comes here, Mike.
That's it. Sorry.
I know Donald don't mean this.
All right. We're talking about the monthly reports, Captain.
Now you're in trouble.
Yeah,
Sorry, Bill, that's what I thought this other thing was about.
yeah, no. So I don't know who else may have raised some concerns, but I did. You've answered some of them. But going back to the response time, you look at this report and it's hard for me to understand when I first look at it. Create to ready for dispatch, and it has a number. Dispatch to arrive, it has another number, followed by a third column, and then, of course, your response time. So can you tell us what those columns mean, if anything, to us?
Sure. So the way, we don't create this report, for the record, this is actually, we work in conjunction with Joint Services that provides our dispatch services. When this report was drafted, it was explained to me that it has to be done in seconds. And that's just because of a technical issue between the CAD system and our system that we use. It's called New World. It's a software program that we utilize for dispatching. The call will come into dispatch. It's taken by the dispatch caller or operator. Then that person basically triages the phone call and decides what agency that phone call is going to go to. And they're the ones that start gathering all the preliminary information that will go to all the officers or the officer that's going to be in dispatch that call. So that's their first set of numbers that starts to get generated. From there, it actually goes to the actual assigned dispatcher for that agency for the day. And then they're the ones that kind of take on their call and then continue to dispatch that out now to the responding deputy or officer, depending on the agency that you're dealing with, or with fire services. And then they'll tally that once the deputy either places themselves at the scene manually or via dispatch on the radio, that's when it gathers that information of their arrival time. So the only column that's generated in minutes and seconds is that final column that you see showing dispatch to arrive in minutes. Everything else, for whatever reason, it has to be done in seconds. And this is something that Mike Logic, who is one of the supervisors in dispatch, and I were trying to figure out how to make this as easy as possible to follow and read. And it's the program or the spreadsheet that was created. And that's kind of what we're working with right now.
Okay.
Hopefully, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. So in essence, the first three columns, or the second, third, and fourth column, for us anyhow, are meaningless.
Correct.
So the only ones that would be worth or important to us is the first, which is the actual incident call, and the last, which is the total response time in minutes and seconds.
Right.
Okay.
And I personally would prefer to not just see the case number that's assigned to that incident. I'd also like to see the type of call. To access that, then I have to log into a whole different software program and kind of search for it by case number and go from there.
And that's kind of what I did.
Okay.
But like I mentioned to you, I looked at the response time first, and I started with just a number, all right? And then tied it back to the call, which is on the second report we get in an HTML fashion, and then filtered.
Okay.
Whereas you got the 7 calls I had a concern about, and that was it.
Okay.
So you answered all of my questions. Thank you.
Did anyone else have any questions? Comments? Nothing? Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Right, the second item on the committee of the whole is the business license process and procedures. Well, we've let this sit for a little bit. I hope everybody has been looking at it. I don't know how far we want to get with it tonight, but
I got a question, so I'll start off if you want.
sure.
My first question is, have we refined the definition of what we call a business?
No,
So going back to my original concerns, you take someone who is a computer knowledgeable individual who does nothing more than answer a phone and provides assistance, where he's not bringing in anything tangible. He's not giving out any tangible item,
Mhm.
much like you would see with an accountant or something along those lines. Have we done anything in that regard to further define what we call or what we want a business license to be issued for, if that makes sense?
Yes, I think David actually created. We're trying to come up with. And we're mostly talking about home occupations, correct?
Yes.
That was one of the keys. I'll have to look and I'll send that out. We'll talk about it. I know we have it. I know there was a lot of. There's a whole bunch of stuff that should have been in there that wasn't, and a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't.
Okay.
So I know that we have that. I'll look it up.
All right, thank you.
How far are we in finishing this? I mean, we haven't touched it for a while.
I think as far as some staff goes, we've sent you, I believe, the latest version. We were working on the homework. And we're trying, and I've gotten more feedback in regards to what we would like to see other than the one in regards to home occupation.
I guess, is it just the one that I described, or are there others that could fall into that same category? I just, I don't have it off the tip of my tongue right now. That became the easiest one as a example.
Yep. But that was the only question that we were working on from our end, from the original. I believe.
So remind me, did we charge before this? Or this is all brand new, correct?
So this is all brand new.
So it's
Some of the confusion and was in our initial go around to start buying input. The documents were a little confusing because we talked about conditional use or what do you call when you get the
Compliance,
certificate of compliance
compliance fee for 250.
plus the
The annual renewal and the initial application.
correct. So that's already in place,
That's all in place,
except for the business license is what's new.
the 250.
Was
That's been in place?
it for the other one, but we don't have a business license currently at all.
Okay, all right.
According to what I'm reading here, is through all the stipulations, I'm supposed to, myself, being in business, in a home business, I'm supposed to have a certificate of compliance, correct?
Correct.
Mhm.
But in some of the stipulations, it meaning a construction office without any equipment there, I don't, what do I need? It's
Well,
permitted.
and again, this was kind of a carryover from the Phillips County zoning that we just haven't fixed. So if the business licenses, we move that forward, and again, the number that you want to set for those fees is up to the board. We don't care about the number as much as we would like to see the business license. It definitely benefits many of the departments.
But as far as what is the village gonna benefit from this? I mean, you're talking about rental units and stuff like this, but a home business, I can't see where.
Well,
this
and
is-
that's exactly one of our points, that if we define this home business, then it probably wouldn't be required, right? That's what we kind of talked about. Is
Right,
that, and
right.
so a home business running your office, then you'd be exempt. You know what I mean? You would need a business license.
Right, that's where I'm coming from.
And that's what we want to get to also, you know, and again, the very first go around was wide open looking for feedback.
Right.
And obviously home occupation was a big one, you know, so. Depends on those, but I'm looking those up now.
And how are we gonna move forward? Let's like, we need to go forward on this. How are we gonna progress with defining the home businesses? I mean, is it Jim? Is it Brad? Is it yourself?
David's working on it.
David? Okay.
But as far as a commercial piece of property or a commercial business, okay, I mean, where does this come in with the, you know, your certificate of compliance? And I'm sure we have a whole list of businesses in the village. Do they all have
No,
certificates of compliance and conditional
No.
use permits?
no,
See, this is where,
Commercial properties,
well, I mean, so,
no, they don't.
I don't think.
see, this is where,
But that's why we're doing this, so we can move forward and get everybody on. I mean, he gave us a list, a pretty extensive list. However, there's still more than this.
To be honest, like, backing up 3 months, you know, could have been, should have been.
Mhm.
I wish I'd never given that list, because my purpose in the list was to show the board how many businesses we do have here in Salem. Not
That,
whether it's a home business running an office.
Right.
Or an auto repair, or, you know, one of the big buildings in the industrial park. But just to show you how many businesses we actually do have, because if you just drive down the main roads in Salem, you're like, what do we have? 50 businesses? 100, you know,
Mhm.
there's a lot of businesses, and there's a lot of them that do home-based businesses.
Right.
And, you know, we're looking more at the commercial stuff where, you know, change of use and all these other stuff where we would be on top of that instead of, right now, our only avenue. And then, you know, a guy moves out of a business a couple of days after the fire department does an inspection.
Mhm.
They move out, somebody else moves in, they've been operating now for 5 months, everything's happy, business is great. We go in for a fire inspection and it changed from somebody rolling yarn to now they're working on vehicles with gas and everything else, and it's like, oh, you can't do this. You don't have this, you don't have that. Well, why not? Nobody's ever told me that before. But it was a change of use where this business license, and if they have to apply, then they would know they would come in, and right away we could say, well, this is what they're doing in that facility now. You want to do this, these are the requirements.
Yeah.
They just know it up front, so we're not chasing down the road. And Jim, Brad had, you know, anything you'd like, but that was the purpose for the business license. The certificate of occupancy, if there's a business license, I don't know that that's a huge need anymore. You know, I mean, it's just something we can work through.
The certificate of compliance? You're not sure if we need that, did you just say?
Correct, if we have a business license.
Okay,
The certificate of compliance right now is really a very small part of what we do, but it's basically gives us the opportunity to say, you meet this, you meet that, where a business license would. Really,
and that's a one-time fee, if I can remember correctly.
we can set that according to however you would like. You know, but obviously, I think every year or however it's set up, we will have staff time involved.
Mhm.
If you're compliant, coming in to fill out their paperwork. So we were just trying to recover some of the cost of that burden and not expect the residential taxpayers to pay for that. So that was the purpose of some of the fee.
So everybody's on board with this home operation kind of stuff, right, fellas? You're all in favor of not having them.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
That list that I sent
Mhm.
today, there's some unusual businesses that I hadn't thought about, like a web designer. They're gonna have people coming in their house, but that's not something I would think our fire department has to go and take a look at.
That's correct.
a Facebook page designer, a vintage clothing retailer, a party planner. There was 50 of them that I found on the internet that,
And I'll send it over to you. You'll have it when, later, I'll send it to you now, but examples of permanent home occupancies and home base included, but are not limited to an artist studio, computer services, including desktop publishing and word processing, dressmaker, seamstress, family daycare with 8 or fewer children is the key to that number, is 8 or fewer. Gunsmith for service and repair of firearms, not licensed through the ATF, but not ammunition. You know, so if you're doing a gunsmith repairing gun, you can do that in your home. Obviously, we don't want to be loading a couple thousand dollars, but music or dance instruction, hairdresser, office or construction business, which is, I think, was one of the concerns that several people had.
Music, the dance instructor, I mean, that's a lively business in Wilmot for the dance.
It would be minimal of the number of people.
but that's in a commercial building.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're not
In a
It
home.
was in a commercial building.
okay.
You know, if you're gonna do a dance instruction or
I do. No, I'm
for
kidding.
that matter, you know, I mean, you can do.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
music teacher.
Well, okay, because I know we do have the one in Wilmot now.
But
Right,
that's a
different.
commercial building, so that's.
That's different. Okay. So,
Yep, it's so office for an accountant, architect, attorney, broker, engineer, financial advisor, insurance agent, interior, land surveyor, real estate, telemarketing.
okay,
You know, we tried to cover, so when I send it to you, Brad just sent it to me, so we'll just make sure when you go through and read it, if you compare it to the original one we sent out, then all these changes are in red based on some of the opinions we've got from people.
okay. So right now, you're not looking for anything else. We're trying to sum it up in your end and we'll be done.
Correct, we just want to know how the board would like us to proceed to move forward, and we're trying to address, you know, issues that Ron had.
Perfect. Yeah, identify the home ones and move forward and let's,
I just received, I didn't have time to look at it real close, you know, from what Dennis sent out to you and I today, you know, there might be more we want to add to this list, just because I know there was one in there, I don't remember what it was, it was.
Hot air balloon operator, that's when it.
that is on the list, by the way, because he gave me the list. Okay, so then we're good. Your fellas are gonna get back to us and let us know.
If you would,
And that-
let's have a few minutes on the next committee of the whole.
Sure.
We'll bring it to you, and then hopefully the following month we can.
And the fees that you think are appropriate. Correct?
Correct.
Okay,
But again, that was the reason in the fees is not to, it's just not.
right, because we don't want to discourage either, you know? Okay. Good. Anybody else for anything on that? Okay. Number 3, use of golf carts on village streets. Big thing. Did you see we were in the newspaper today? How funny, but can we not?
And I can tell you that the newspaper article, that was,
You and Dan,
unfortunately, that information got sent out before I
No, you and Ron.
was, because that is not the current ordinance that she posted.
Right.
So
yeah,
I think between myself and.
And the email we got this afternoon, that was, you know, here again, which but the one that was printed on 12/7, okay, the newest one. We can drag this out farther and down the road, but as far as it basically got the same thing Paddock Lake has. They've had 2 incidents in 4 years. I think we're on the right track with what we have right here.
and I talked to somebody from Paddock Lake and they also said the same thing. They didn't require safety belts.
Pardon?
They didn't require safety belts.
I know, I understand that.
But I think, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, but I mean, if the vehicle doesn't come with it, I don't think we should make anybody add it
Well,
for safety.
I think everyone on the board knows my opinion on this.
Mhm.
And I gave an example of why I have that opinion, and I still steadfast with that opinion. Because I don't think we are offering enough safety for I'm going to use the term minors. Okay. I've ridden in golf carts on the road. I've ridden in golf carts off the road.
Mhm.
And certainly it's up to the driver of how they're going to drive. But you know, that's an adult passenger. But children can't really fend for themselves in a vehicle that's made for an adult. So I'm asking that we add to this ordinance that there should be a seatbelt for every passenger, maximum of 4 passengers, 2 in the front, 2 in the rear, if so equipped with a seating arrangement. Now, some have mentioned, well, you don't want to burden the golf cart owners with that additional cost.
Mhm.
Well, if you looked at a golf cart today, you can find golf carts ranging in price from a few $1,000s to well over $10,000. But adding a seatbelt as a minimum for safety to a passenger, if it's a 2-passenger, it's between $35 and $40. If it's a 4-passenger, 4-seater, it's between $80 to $90. I think that the overall cost of adding a seatbelt and requiring that seatbelt to be worn in vehicles that are going to be able to go up to 25 miles an hour, we should add that to our ordinance. I don't think it's a burden to the ones that are going to have the actual golf carts themselves, because the expense is very high to begin with. If you can't afford $80 to $100 in this venture, then you truly seriously should look at not even doing it. So I'm still asking that we add this to the ordinance before we come to a vote. Let's add requirement for seatbelt on every passenger that's there. Now, I know the comment is, what if they don't wear it? Well, then they're in violation. We can't force them, just like in your car.
Do they even come with them? They don't come with them, right?
Well, they're not designed to be, if they're designed to be used on the road, then there's ordinances in many areas that
Mhm.
tell you that you have to have not only seat belts, but lighting, brake lighting, turn signals, quite a few number. Basically, it's applying a lot of the vehicle that we drive today. They have to have those safety features.
Now, somebody did tell me, now, for what it's worth, they told me this last week, actually, that they don't want we were talking about seatbelts. They didn't want seatbelts on because they said if it turns over, they want them to fly instead of going with the vehicle when it turns over, but it doesn't say when you're getting hit or anything like that. Do you know what I mean?
I
Say it's
well,
safe, it's safer to fly off of a low going 20 miles an hour vehicle than it is to roll with the vehicle. That's what they told me.
I would try to debate that.
And I don't know. I've never had one.
I have experience falling out of a golf cart on a golf course. And luckily, it wasn't on a path, it was on a fairway or in a rough. So then, yes, that's different. But now that we're talking about putting it on hard surface roadways,
Mhm.
it's totally different. Totally different way.
Okay.
But then, Diana, what you're saying, I mean, if the manufacturers of golf carts aren't putting seatbelts in them,
Mhm.
I don't know what studies have been done on them. I don't know, like Diane said, I don't know if you're potentially causing a higher risk of injury by putting a seatbelt in. I mean, the manufacturers aren't doing it. So I'm assuming that if there was some liability, if they thought that getting
Mhm.
thrown out of a low moving one, was more hazardous than being belted into one, maybe they'd have them in there. I don't know. But I think anytime you're putting aftermarket equipment in a vehicle and making people do that, then the manufacturer doesn't do that. I would have a question about doing that as far as safety.
You bring up a very good point, and I'm going to use that same comment from my side of the aisle. If manufacturers are not making these vehicles to have safety equipment as standard, seat belts, turn signals, horns, lights, all this, isn't that saying that they're not supporting these vehicles to be on public highways?
I don't know.
Which is-
I don't know.
Because then it brings it into a whole different category with the Department of Transportation.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
There's, excuse me, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I interrupted you.
They're taking the position that we're not supplying it, then you as a municipality or state or whatever it may be, you set the ground rules. You take that, because Golf carts are designed to be used on a golf course or off-road on those type of surfaces. Therefore, the liability is quite different because you sign a waiver when you rent a golf cart. You go to a golf cart course and you rent a golf cart, you're signing a waiver regarding the liability. So the manufacturer of the golf cart and the golf course are very, very limited exposure to it. So that's how they're getting around this, and that's my opinion on it. I think it's a very good opinion. But for us to say, yes, we can have golf carts on village roads, which is all of the village roads that are under posted 25 miles an hour and less, with a few exceptions of roads. That's a tremendous amount of road area that we're now mixing different types of vehicles, and where one vehicle has to meet a much higher standard for safety and another vehicle doesn't have to. And I'm just saying is that I saw an instance, I've reported it many times here, and it bothers the heck of me. And I cannot consciously put my head down at night and sleep if we pass this, but they're all trying to do something for the individuals that are young enough, that don't know better, can't handle, and we have to look out for them. Otherwise, I can't support this.
I understand your position. I respect your position. But again, I mean, golf carts are run on asphalt runways and in golf courses. So I mean, it's not that unusual. I'm just hesitant to put, because I'm sure that golf cart manufacturers have studied this, because I mean, they're looking at liability, potential product liability. And I can't speak for certain whether they've studied if seatbelts are going to cause greater injuries, lesser injuries. I don't know, but I know that they are not, as manufacturers, installing that. And I would be hesitant to have a village say, that we're going to overrule the manufacturer, require this equipment be put in this type of vehicle without knowing if there's more risk by seatbelting people in. So I understand that. It's just something that I'm not willing to make.
I'll agree with you on your point. Then why are we going to allow it? If the manufacturer doesn't, why are we going to allow it? Are we following suit like that other municipalities? And I appreciate everyone's work into it. I know we're using Paddock Lake as a blueprint, but Paddock Lake is not the same as Salem Lakes. Same, completely different demographics, completely different geography, completely different roads, and intersection of roads that are in with our village is not the same as what's in Paddock Lake. I just think it is not safe enough. We need to make it safer. And if we don't, then I can't support it.
But I don't think the use is that different. I mean, most of the people I see using golf carts are neighborhood jumping, they're going down the block to visit their neighbors. I don't see a lot of, I know it's illegal at the moment, but I mean, I just don't see a lot of golf carts running down streets that are over 35. Most of what I'm seeing are people in their neighborhoods, older people may have back problems, knee problems, that they're going to go visit their neighbor. They're going to hop in their golf cart and they're going to ride half a block or a block away. And, I think that, and we should let them do that. That's my opinion. We differ before.
So how close are we without this, with the exception of safety for right now, that part of safety? How close are we in finishing this
I
up?
can tell you, to go back to the original draft that I believe I just sent to you again.
Yes,
I think Ron mentioned the date was December. I just ordered it again.
yes,
Other than seatbelt, I've had no other proposed changes.
okay.
I believe that, and I Ron a lot of credit, and I know that Mike spent some time, Ted, but I know Ron went around and did a lot of homework.
And this does go through the state as far as matching what they're recommending as far as speed limits. Crossing a road that's 35 miles an hour, they have all this documented. That's where we kind of put all this together as far as that. The only thing, I think the only holdup we have is the safety, but how far do we go with safety? So
Well, how do you feel about that safety?
I don't, the seatbelts, I don't agree with it. They don't manufacture them that way. So,
Dennis?
I venture to say there are more golf carts used in metropolitan areas in the country than there are in golf courses, all through Florida and many communities. They're their mode of transportation. I most certainly appreciate what Dan says with regard to the safety aspect of it. And I am wondering why the manufacturers don't put seatbelts in them. Do they put them in any of them, Dan? Do you
Well,
know?
They're, the ones that I'm familiar with, the manufacturers do not, but they're installed at the dealer level in order to meet local requirements. The same thing with lights, turn signals, brake lights, and all of that. Those are done locally. When it comes to mixed operations, most of the golf carts are in gated communities where the main transportation is a golf cart and the vehicles are secondary transportation where they gain access off of a main road. Now, there are some areas in Florida, Arizona, that do have a lane that's for golf carts, but that's a separate lane. Those are just like a bike path, in essence, but it's wider
This one.
for golf carts. So they're making special provisions for golf carts to be used as transportation. But I don't see us making our village roads wider and striping it to put in golf carts. I mean, that's gonna be,
No,
And we
But now-
couldn't, I mean, the golf carts, as we had a couple that were in our audience many times, they go to the beach.
I'd like to read, but can I?
They live in one of our neighborhoods and many of them developed because there was a lake in there. And these people just, as Ted mentioned, they're elderly. They use it to take all their stuff down to the
but
beach.
we're not limiting this to just beach areas.
No,
We've opened it up to virtually every place within the village that meets certain requirements with speed limit postings, with some exceptions on certain roads, which I commend the committee that's put this together to add that. I agree with it, but when it comes to making it as widespread as we're talking about, I have a very difficult time accepting it.
thank you.
I
Okay,
really do not think if somebody's going a block down the road in their golf cart, they're gonna put their safety belt on to begin with. I mean, but I can see having it in there, but
That's their choice,
right.
just like in a car. They don't have to put their seatbelts on. Now, there's warning signals and chimes that are going off in a car that does that. I'm not proposing we do that in here. But it's still, if we don't have the seatbelts in there, then it's gonna be an answer like, I didn't have to wear it, so, you guys didn't make me put it in there, and didn't require it to be in there, so.
But isn't this the responsibility of the driver? You have a licensed driver, you have insurance in the whole shop, okay? I think it should be the responsibility of the driver, okay?
And it
You
is.
want to put a seatbelt on, put a seatbelt on, but I don't think we should recommend that they install seatbelts or have them installed.
What about you, Mike? What do you think?
I have wrestled with this back and forth since it's all started, and Dan brought it up. And one side of my brain says absolutely make them have seatbelts, but there again, I've fallen on the golf carts in the past, and I've rolled golf carts in the past. I've owned golf carts in my house, and we use them all over the yard. We use them for hauling stuff around, and it just, if you're gonna get reckless with it, you're gonna get reckless, and I don't know if there's enough, if we can, next thing we're gonna go with padding. I'm not an attorney, and Ted backed me up, but my thought would be if we mandate seatbelts in it and something happens and there's an injury because of that, are we then responsible? Are we then liable? And
It's potentially, I mean,
yeah, and so for that reason, I mean, we're restricting to 25 mile an hour roads.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have a lot of restrictions on them. I'm gonna say, if we start getting a lot of issues, a lot of complaints, a lot of whatever, we shut it down. We just say, no more, we're not gonna do anymore. I just know, and Dan, I agree with you. There's a lot of places in the warmer climates that this is the mode of transportation that they do, but they're usually older people. But we've got to, I think the ordinance is set that you got to be a licensed driver in the beginning to drive in the first place.
Yes, you
If you're
do.
driving it recklessly, you could get a ticket if you're, getting crazy. And then as far as seeing them on the street, go to any subdivision in Halloween time, you'll see golf carts, garden tractors, ATVs, and they take their kids out on them and trick or treating.
Yeah.
I'd like to see us at least try it. And again, like everything else, if we have problems, we'll
Always
back
know.
up.
I mean,
Bill?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we vacation every summer down to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And golf carts are much like pedestrians walking on the road. There's that many of them down there. They do cross the highways down there, typically to get to a grocery store or whatever. I have seen some with headlamps. I've seen some with stoplights. I've seen some with windshields, no wipers. But I have never seen one with seatbelts. I don't know who requires what safety measures other than the local municipality. I would also think, or like, don't know for sure, but if someone goes out and buys a new golf cart, do they run the risk of voiding any warranty guarantee by putting non-equipment on that particular unit? And are people willing to do that? Probably not. So I like Mike. I think we're about 95% there now. And I'd like to go with it. And then if we have to, polish it as we go on.
Just one more point. You know, if we are going to mandate seatbelts be installed, then we're going to have some type of safety inspection.
Well, currently in the ordinance, we will have to inspect that golf cart.
But I mean, do we have people qualified to make a decision? And if we certify them and a seatbelt breaks,
The sheriff's department will be the one certifying. They're the ones that do the local municipalities that have it.
gotcha. Okay, that was one of my questions.
Are you a golf cart inspector?
No, you're going to be, so.
So we know, but if we mandate installation and it's okay and the seatbelt breaks,
Correct.
And someone gets hurt
I mean, the
because-
drawback with seatbelts,
Hands
is
are worse.
most people, I agree with Dan, most people are not gonna take them to the golf cart facility and have them installed. It's gonna be a guy with a couple of self-tappers in his garage and a screw gun, and, you know, and what safety? Does it pull out at 200 pounds? Does it pull out at 400 pounds? Obviously in a car, you know, they're tested. They know that those are 3,000 pound PSI, the size of a bolt, the size of this. I just think to require the seatbelt goes so much further in requiring what type of installation and how far do you go with that. And I don't believe, I know staff doesn't, I don't believe sheriff would have capabilities of doing those types of inspections. You know, it's pretty easy to tell if a headlight goes on or if a horn works. But as far as how the seatbelt's installed.
Is there anything in there about carrying children? Like, you know how some people carry? That's against the law, right? Because if there's 4 seats, you can only have 4 people. They can't carry a baby or a toddler.
Supposedly, I mean, it's stated in there, if it's
I didn't find that.
2-seater, if it's 4, it's 4.
Yeah, I did see that.
How do we
Because I have seen that where, you know, toddlers are on their mom or dad's lap.
this is, I'm gonna say, this is basically the responsibility of the driver.
Okay.
So let me just pose this question, since it seems like, you know, I'm not getting any support about putting seatbelts in.
Okay.
What do we do regarding safety of someone that's a preteen or a young teenager when it comes to sitting in an adult-sized seat of a golf cart? How do we assure that they are going to be protected from whatever the driver may see, either on purpose, doing malicious act, or something that occurs and that cannot be avoided? What are
I
we
think
going
like Ron says, it just comes down to the driver.
Can I ask a question? Captain Gonzalez, if you have an adult and there's an incident and they were found to be driving recklessly, is that not a citable offense? Okay.
And a lot of times from what some of my students have told me from Paddock Lake, they got busted on a lawnmower and a golf cart a couple of times I've heard. And the officer was kind enough to just say, hey, go home. And they let them drive it home. And then, you know, for the night, you're done. Don't do it again. And
It's what we talked about earlier with the captain, the sheriff here is, you know.
you can't, I mean, you don't want to, I mean, their kids will be kids, but I agree with you, Dan.
We operate, they have the authority, but they use their own discretion whether to make these people or not. And no, I don't think
I understand.
we're driving our grandson down to the fishing, even though they're illegal in today's right here. I don't think they're gonna write them, but if you have a bunch
Right.
of kids hanging off and dragging down, I think that obviously is a different animal. But again, I think our ordinance and, matter of fact, I think Captain Gonzalez is probably pretty familiar with that place, but I think most of the liability back on the owner of the golf cart, the insurance, and what we would, if it was passed as is, we would have to figure out the means to get these carts inspected, because obviously we're gonna get a waive, I would think. Or maybe it might be like recently passed ordinances a couple of years ago, we might get one or two.
And it might be just like the chickens where they don't come at all to get their
That was
license.
the one I was referring to, so.
Oh, for gosh sake. So I am in favor, if the board agrees, that we move forward with what we have here, and we'll be presenting it at the next board meeting for approval
As written.
as written. And then if you have anything in the meantime with businesses, and I appreciate it, Dan, I really do, but I really thought about it and I think I'm in favor of not doing it, but I hope it doesn't bite us. Okay,
I agree with what Mike said, that, we can try it out and adjust it if we have to as it goes on.
I think
But
so.
I do want to be proactive in writing some citations, because that'll spread the word,
Enforcement.
that'll.
And we can't do anything unless we have an ordinance too. I
But I
mean,
believe that was
part of the
we
reason.
got to where we are, right now it's no, but it only makes sense. So now we're creating the ordinance, and I can tell you that obviously once the village board adopts it, I will be emailing, I'm glad he's here, I'll be emailing the captain and saying, here's the ordinance, please enforce. Obviously, it'll take the Salem Lakes deputy time, because they're gonna have to inspect these golf carts, and, maybe we can work with John on his day, or, maybe he can learn through them.
Some of these people that have been so anxious, they have this come to fruition, may find out the devil's in the details.
That's correct. So that, and I agree that we're gonna ask for, if you see it, and again, this is, sometimes we'll create, because this does not get us down the road, and I'm sure we're gonna look at it in the future, UTVs and ATVs. We also,
We ride on your road?
are all over the road, so
Can't ride on
this
your
is for
road.
golf
either.
carts only, and that's where they're going to apply. But obviously, I think the sheriff's department is always, they'll use their discretion and do a good job, so. That is it. Comes.
My road is banned. I won't be able to buy one. Because I can't,
Buy one, just
I can't drive it, right? Okay. I'm gonna move on. Great, good points. We're moving on. Sale of village-owned properties. We have a bunch of them, and I just actually had one that I brought up to Mike and Brad 2 weeks ago. And we were gonna get Rich's opinion on it, but
Bruce did, I
Yeah.
sent it to you. Yep.
Yeah.
So it was actually, it's one right by the industrial park in Silver Lake. I think there's 9 acres.
yeah, that's what you were saying, almost 10.
That was given, I believe, from what the record we could find, was given and dedicated as a park.
When,
Silver Lake, which is now obviously Salem Lakes. So even though
Right by Breezy Hill.
we still need to go back through the Parks Commission, I guess for lack of a better, to get their okay on it. Or if I'm wrong, but and it's a matter of if you want to sell it. Now, in my opinion, it is 10 acres. We did do, Brad and I did a quick review on it. It's 10 acres. It's high and dry. It's not encumbered by wetland, it's not encumbered by the kind of an environmental corridor, any of that stuff. So it's a pretty valuable 10 acres, I would think. It's but to the north to the industrial park. And then obviously to, it doesn't go all the way to 50, but it abuts some commercial property on Highway 50. And to the south is the residence, go crazy, that Edgewood Drive, Edgewood. So it does put up to some residents there. So, we can talk to Rocco. I think I had it in the past. I can get another assessed value, but I think getting it appraised and a market, putting it on the market would probably be better than just selling it to someone, obviously, that it joins it, because obviously there's residents that I think use it, not that it's right, wrong, or indifferent, but use a lot of that land as their own personal land. And it borders the industrial park, so there's quite a bit. Would be involved. I think.
I seem to recall, when the county highway building was there, that there may be contaminants that
All that's been, I think that
Yeah.
they're still under, they might have some wells, I'm not sure if they maintain there, but I think all that's been mitigated, but that doesn't affect this particular.
it doesn't, okay. We just really have to identify the properties that we want to sell. And we don't have that many of them, to be honest. The other ones are little things on a curve or, next to. It'd be nice to get rid of those, but
If I can add, we keep coming back to this same answer that, yeah, there's properties we could sell. Yeah, there's properties we could sell. We've been at this for almost 2 years now. Okay, and we haven't sold a single one that I'm aware of that we've identified. And I think it's time that, and Mike, I know you were going to jump in on some of this stuff. However, your time is valuable with your full-time job. And I honestly believe that we need to get a realtor that's going to devote the time and the personnel to come in here, give us an honest appraisal value and say to us, do we want to open this up for bids? Or do we want to just sell it, see if the people adjacent want to buy it outright?
We could get it from Rocco.
Well, either or, but
Okay.
I don't want to keep coming back month after month. And I know I'm a pain in a lot of your hind ends because each and every month, I want to bring this back up onto the table for this very reason. 2 years now, and we haven't done a single thing.
Let's identify, we've got the properties identified. Let's get Rocco on it. It's what we pay him to do basically
I
anyway.
have it from a year ago, Rocco had already done it, I'm sure he'll do it again.
We can offer it. I agree with you. I think we need to offer it to anybody like Wes. If
Do you
it's a
know what
property
the-
next door
what
to
was the
me,
total
why should I
value
get
of the
first
ones that
dibs
we
on
had?
it? I think we should offer it to anybody.
Highest bidder.
Highest bidder who-
Our village tax is $4.18 or $3.
$3 yeah.
So the amount of money we would get out of $100,000 is only $318.
But you're talking one potential parcel. We have multiple parcels.
We do have.
Yeah,
some
well, add them
parcels.
up. I want to know the value.
We
Are
do.
we talking 200,000?
I think it's way over that.
Way over that. There's 104, I have this slip from, I don't know how long ago. There's 140 parcels that the village owns.
Yes, but Mike and I,
But some we weren't going
Right.
to sell.
we spent a lot of time identifying, looking
We
parcels.
got one that was 300,000, but I'm not.
Hey, can we have one conversation, please?
Excuse me, Mike and I spent hours going through that whole list, identifying what is a park, what is a.
We still have that. Yep.
We've got, I think there might have been, 12 or 14 total that are saleable on the market that you can put them out for sale. I forget, and it's been a while, I got a bad memory, but it's good that
It's
it's.
give you the option. We just need direction. That's,
Pardon?
we can do it however you wish. We just need direction.
I say at the next board meeting that we go with a motion to assign it to a realtor, sell it at the highest bid, whatever we can make for it.
And identify the ones that we want to sell.
Well, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
Would you like to have a sit down and go over them one by one?
No.
No? Okay.
We've done that. I've got all.
Okay. I remember the ones you and Mike had, and you had them all, which ones you felt were, why don't we start out with that? Why don't we start out with those 10 or 14 properties and get them,
Subtract it from the 144 and go from there.
okay? All right. Good.
Thank you.
All right, no issues. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to citizens' comments. Did anybody sign in for citizen comments? We got one, but did anybody else? Brian, is there anybody? Okay, Mike, you're on.
I prepared this, giving everybody a copy of it. I just want to go on record and say, at a committee of the whole meeting on it was January 6th, a typo there.
Okay,
During a discussion about golf carts and village roads, I made a statement that the village of Johnsburg allowed an event whereby an event was held where people drove golf carts on a pub crawl. This information was told to me by a respected citizen of Johnsburg, whom I've known for many years. It's also verified by a close friend of mine who was the chief of police for Wonder Lake, Illinois, who also worked part-time for the village of Johnsburg. At a subsequent board meeting on January 10th of this year, a citizen who identified himself as Gerald Leslie stood up and stated he had spoken personally with someone at the village of Johnsburg who said he looked at him like he was crazy. Mr. Leslie stated that Johnsburg had never done this and I was a liar. Attached to this writing are copies of pages straight from the Village of Johnsburg website dated spring 2020. The Johnsburg Lions Club thanks the village for the support of your first ever golf cart pub crawl in 2019. One would just Google Johnsburg Lions Club. They would see a long article that speaks to this. I'm fairly certain that Mr. Leslie has access to a computer and that he must have listened to the December meeting via computer, as I know he was not present. If Mr. Leslie would like to apologize to me personally or in writing, I would accept his apology.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. And there's no one else on the list, so we're gonna, did anyone miss the list and would like to speak? We're good, okay. All right, we're gonna move on to presentations, petitions, communications, and other agency reports. Number one, discussion and possible action on a partial release of real estate mortgage by lender relative to construction loan from CABA on a Salem Business Park property.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have Faber and Hopkins to approve. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Number two, approval of the RTI invoice number 6604 in the amount of $7,320 for Microsoft Office 365 migration services.
Motion approved.
Second.
Kulat Campion, questions on this?
The only question I had, and Brian answered it, you had mentioned that we may replace some of the laptops here come April. And my question was, how does this licensing now impact those newer laptops? And he answered that satisfactory for me, that it would be inclusive of the new laptops.
Okay. All right,
The original price of this was over 15,000, but there were some things that were done by Brian, working with them, that is virtually cut the amount in half. So thank
Thank you
you.
for your efforts, Brian.
Yep.
Very, very good.
all right, with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Number two, Public Works, excuse me. Number one, discussion and possible action on awarding the 2022 Street Rat Rehabilitation Program. Base bid alternatives A, B, and C and D, contract to Payne and Dolan in the amount of $2,099,729.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Faber and Kulat, questions on this?
Yes.
Yes.
Mike, I'm sorry.
Bill?
So on the letter from R.A. Smith that came to us regarding the streets, the 1 to 3rd line, is that supposed to be Maple Street and not Maple Road? I'm assuming so, because you got Fox Lane in there, Northwater. So I'm assuming you're talking Maple Street, not,
No, that's in another town.
thank you.
Yes, it is Maple Street.
I just wanted to double check.
Here in Salem, we're not used to those street names.
Yeah. We don't have names, we just got numbers.
Don't forget AH.
All right, Dan, you were next. Did you have a question, Dan?
Yeah, I had the question is, this amount for over $2 million, that's coming out of a line item budget, correct, for road repair, not included with the sewer? And
Actually, several line items, I'm just pulling some of that up here. Chris, I believe we talked about it. Chris has it. I can give that to you if you like. Just talks about all the different accounts.
you could, Chris, you can email it to me. Oh, if you got it printed, that's fine.
Yeah, Chris obviously sent me an email earlier. I just said, just have it ready in case a question comes up about where these are coming from. And I'll also email it to you so you'll have it for you.
So
Oh, so organized. So go ahead. Is that it, Dan?
Yeah, that's all.
Okay, Mike Kula, did you have something?
I just want to say for those in the audience and those that may be zooming in and not see this, there is a codicil at the end. It was a single bid for this project, but no other bids were received. But it says from our
Okay.
engineer,
Okay.
we also believe the single bid received for this project is competitive and reasonable based on the current volatile market influenced by material shortages and supply chain issues. Delaying the project award may result in increased project costs at a later date. This would add that for on the public record, people, some of them pick it up, but yes, prices are extremely volatile, especially in oil. So
Yes.
I think we're lucky to get a number like this based on past projects.
I agree. That's the reason. Go ahead.
No, Dennis, I was saying if you had, somebody had comment over here. Question?
I didn't have a question, but I do agree with that. It's one of the reasons that I supported it along with
And
the
just in case
recommendation.
it comes back later, so you only had one bid, that's all we got.
And it was lower, the engineer's estimate was
Correct.
higher than the actual estimate.
Right.
Bill, did you have a comment? Okay, we're all good with that. All right.
Milwaukee County has done several to make sure our cost per square yard is really how we kind of break it down at the end of the day. And the bid that they give us was right there. So even though it was only one, it was competitively bid throughout the state, and the per square yard is there. So
We work with Payne and Dolan, and they've been doing a nice job.
yeah,
So I mean, it's a bid,
Okay.
yes, okay, that's
All
all.
right, with that, we had a motion in favor and Kulat seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Number 2, discussion and possible adoption of Village of Salem Lakes standards and specifications for development.
I just, actually, Diane had actually had a call or email and said, what is this about?
Yeah.
You know, we haven't had a lot of big developments going on, but we believe they're coming. And so when we worked with David, Brad did most of the work. We talked to our engineers, we talked to our planner, and we just wanted to clear up our standards that we're doing that. So when somebody comes in and wants to build, here's the new standard.
It's excellent. I read it and have been promoting that in writing for a long time, and I'll move to approve.
All right,
Second.
Faber and Kulat.
Got a question.
Yes, Bill.
If going forward, not knowing this document before, going forward, and I guess this applies to any document of this sort, is there a way that you can highlight either the pages and or the sections of the document that are changing for future use? So that it makes it easier when we start to review it,
Yeah.
we can see what is taking
I
place.
think that'll be pretty easy. Yeah, we start with the original document, start editing it. Yeah, we can do that. And then-
Yeah, that is a lot easier.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. From the clerk's office, approval of the applications, so noted. Anybody want to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to deny the first one.
Okay,
I'll second it.
The name
Valerie.
Kelsey
Yeah,
Nottingham.
Nottingham.
Yes.
So it's trustee Hopkins' motion and then
Okay, so
trustee Kulak
let's,
second.
Yes.
I'm asking for a denial based on
mhm,
the background check that was conducted and the job in which she'll be doing.
And the length of the report.
And well, and the time.
Yeah, at the time, yeah, I'd go along with that too. It was kind of recent.
Yep.
I have a question about the report.
yes,
I don't see, I see the charges, but I don't see that
she got charged.
she got charged for these, but that it was any type of
So-
adjudication. Is that,
Yeah, there isn't one on here.
right, if she's found to be not guilty on all these, we're denying her prior to due process.
But she can also come before the board and kind of
Hmm,
say, I haven't been found, or whatever the case might be,
She has every right to appeal in front of us.
appeal it. There you go.
I agree with you, but in previous instances,
hmm,
we were advised that we were not, because it wasn't adjudicated, we couldn't deny her. We had to wait until it was. And then, or we can do a contingent upon an outcome of this case.
I mean.
that's what I would recommend.
Presumption of innocence. And just
Right.
based on a report that says you were charged with something, I mean, there's people
Right.
charged in homicides and rapes that are cleared by DNA 30 years later. And,
Yeah.
I mean, unless there's a conviction in a report, I'm not going to deny someone a license unless there's clearly a conviction. There's not in this case.
So, Mr. Wanasek, what would you recommend?
We're looking right now in her
All right.
own application, it says there's a date of conviction. On her application, it says.
Right, but
date of
she,
Conviction 2021.
but she says that's for operating on a revoked license in Racine County. That's a different charge than the one that's shown on the background check. And I mean, operating on a revoked license, to me, is not something that should keep you out of a bartending license.
Right, no, I don't see a conviction on
I don't either.
the other charge.
Yeah, so,
I think without a conviction, you can't deny based on a charge.
Even though she listed it as a conviction.
No.
And something else is listed, Mike.
A different.
It's a different-
She listed something else as a conviction.
So the motion was to deny the gal there.
So then I will modify my motion.
You would rescind it,
Yeah, I'll rescind
In
it
the second.
and
and you rescind your second?
Oh, Mike second.
Mike, you rescind your second, okay, all right, new one there, Shannon.
yeah,
Go ahead, Bill, what do you got?
and I would make a motion to approve all the operator licenses.
I'd second the motion.
Okay, and Kulat is seconded. Is there any questions on this? Everyone's clear. We're approving all of them. With that, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of minutes for the regular board meeting on January 10th.
So moved.
Second.
Kulat in favor. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain. I think I missed it.
Yes.
Yep.
And one abstention from Ted.
Meeting minutes.
Oh, they were up there.
What?
Page.
I do need to make. a change.
Okay.
Go back.
Oh, they were added.
What?
You got to change.
I do.
On what?
I just thought of something.
Okay.
Pull it up quickly, draft minutes.
That we're going to change it so that he was absent. That's fine.
I caught that in the typing. I have to put that.
That's fine. With that made, the motion was to approve
Yeah, I-
with the note that Ted was absent.
You put in a.
Made by Kulat in favor?
Yep.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? And one abstention. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Shannon and Ted. Number 3, approval of the vouchers as presented for January 11th through the 21st of February.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, it's Campion in
I
favor.
like the big ones.
Okay, any questions on the vouchers?
Well, I do have a comment on the vouchers, and
Yes,
we had $19 million on this month's vouchers. And if I'm wrong, Chris Lamb, please correct me, but the vast majority of that, probably close to over 17 million of it, was disbursement to the schools. And normally that's done over a course of two months. This time it's all under one. Well, they're listed as January and February, but in previous years, we'd have only January 1 meeting voucher and February and another meeting voucher. And it is in line close to what we've had in previous years. So that's why we're seeing such a large total this month.
Settle in January and then in February.
Right.
all right. With that, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any future agenda items other than what we've discussed on the committee of the whole? Is there anything else that we need? Now, remind me again, March is regular, normal. So we have the committee of the whole the week before the regular board meeting.
Correct.
Okay, so everything's back to normal.
And then April, it's doubled again.
Doubled again on,
Election.
perfect. All right, anybody for anything, just let me know. With that, motion to adjourn is in order.
Motion to adjourn.
Campion
Second.
and Gant, all in favor.
Aye.